Beloved Leo, strange changes are happening and not by accident. They are happening for a reason, and that reason is sacred. The universe is not punishing you. It is preparing you, reshaping you, refining you for something massive, something only your soul has the strength to carry. Everything that once felt steady may now feel unstable. Your passions may be flickering instead of blazing. Your relationships may feel like echoes rather than conversations. But this is not the end of something, it's the divine beginning of a spiritual restructuring. And if you've been sensing it, feeling it, even dreaming about it, then you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to eternal mindfulness, where ancient wisdom meets modern soul, and where you Leo are not just watching, but awakening. This is more than a video. This is a moment of divine interruption. A gentle tap on your cosmic shoulder saying, pay attention. Something big is coming. And so I ask you this not just as an astrologer, but as a mirror. What if the chaos you've been avoiding is actually the compass? What if the discomfort is the doorway? What if all these strange changes are not proof that you're broken, but confirmation that you're being positioned for breakthrough? Because Leo, you're not just shifting, you are being summoned. The fire inside of you, the one that's been quiet lately, isn't gone. It's simply been waiting for alignment. And now that alignment is near. These strange changes are signals. Celestial messages that the path ahead will no longer look like the past because your frequency has changed. And as your frequency rises, so must everything around you. So breathe. You haven't lost your way. You've simply outgrown the map. And that is evolution. Let me pause here and offer my deepest, most heartfelt gratitude for your presence. Your energy, your trust, your time, they mean more than you know. Every like, every comment, every subscription doesn't just support eternal mindfulness, it anchors you deeper into this shared energetic field of purpose, healing, and higher vision. This space was created with you in mind, and your presence is not a coincidence. If this message already resonates, I invite you to drop a comment below. Let me know what changes you've been sensing lately. What feels strange? What feels like a silent push from the universe? I read every word you write, because your story matters. You matter. And I promise you this, what the stars are revealing today is not ordinary. It's not vague or general or forgettable. It is precise, personal, prophetic. This is a transmission meant to unlock something you've been praying for, even in silence. So stay with me, brave heart. Stay through the discomfort, through the questions, through the parts that challenge what you thought was true. Because by the end of this journey, you may not just understand what's shifting, you may finally understand why you were born to rise through it. Let's begin. Leo, if you've made it here with an open heart, then I know the shift is already underway within you. The strange changes you're sensing, the internal misalignment, the emotional fog, the quiet restlessness that won't let you settle, are not just passing moods. They are messages. And those messages are emerging not from the outside world, but from deep within your energy body, specifically, from the sacred dialogue between your solar plexus chakra and your sacral chakra. These two energetic centers are not just active right now, they are blazing with divine urgency, trying to get your attention. The solar plexus, your seat of personal power and confidence, is lighting up to remind you of who you are, not who the world told you to be, not who you needed to be in order to be loved, but who you were born as, radiant, creative, courageous, sovereign. And the sacral chakra, the energetic womb of emotion, desire, and sacred creativity, is stirring beneath the surface like a sleeping volcano. It is asking you to feel more deeply, to reconnect with joy not as a fleeting emotion, but as a way of living. Together, these two chakras are having a conversation through you. They are calling out the truth you've been afraid to speak. The passions you've suppressed. The dreams you've outgrown but haven't yet released. The parts of you that are no longer compatible with who you're becoming. This isn't chaos. This is clarity. Your system is recalibrating itself to stop tolerating what doesn't belong to your highest vibration anymore. And when these chakras become active in tandem, a sacred fire ignites within, the kind of fire that doesn't burn things down, but instead burns things away. Away go the old desires that were shaped by fear. Away go the performances and personas that helped you survive, but now keep you small. What's left is something wild, pure, and untamed, the raw truth of your spirit, asking to be expressed in this lifetime without apology. As we speak of these energies, I'm reminded of a sacred truth, that healing doesn't always look like stillness. Sometimes, it looks like disruption. And just like a garden must be tilled before it's planted, your inner soil is being stirred not to destroy what you've built, but to make space for what wants to grow next. This, Leo, is a form of sacred preparation. A divine discontent. And even if you feel weary or uncertain, I promise you this, nothing within you is broken. It is being rebuilt, cell by cell, belief by belief, so that you can finally live aligned with what sets your soul ablaze. In spiritual therapy, we often say, the body whispers before it screams. And energetically, that whisper comes first through our chakras. You may have noticed the subtle signs of clenching in your gut when you're forcing yourself to commit to something you've outgrown, or a sudden wave of emotion when you realize you no longer love what you used to chase. These are not breakdowns. These are breakthroughs in disguise. And now, your energy is no longer asking for permission. It is demanding transformation. This is the invitation the universe has extended to you to stop dimming your fire to fit into familiar spaces, and instead, to expand into unknown territory with trust. And as someone who has walked through this same fire, I assure you, what waits on the other side is not just freedom, it's fulfillment. If any of this resonates, pause and ask yourself right now, what are you pretending to love that no longer lights you up? What is your gut asking you to leave behind? What would happen if you stopped negotiating with your own fire? Feel free to share that reflection in the comments. This space is safe. You don't have to arrive perfect, you just have to arrive honest. Because your chakras aren't simply activating. They're awakening your courage. They're preparing the path. And they're waiting for you to finally say yes. When financial structures begin to shake, when careers feel misaligned, or when the things you once called security suddenly stop feeling safe, it's natural to panic. But Leo, what if this shaking isn't the collapse of your life, but the clearing of space for a new kind of foundation? What if the things that are loosening their grip on your path were never meant to define you in the first place, only to support you temporarily on your way to something greater? You see, when the energies of change begin to stir in the material realm, work, income, possessions, status, we often interpret them through the lens of loss. But from an energetic perspective, this phase is more like an energetic molting, a shedding of outdated priorities and attachments that were built in a version of yourself that no longer matches who you've become. It's not failure. It's the soul's economy shifting into higher alignment. This is exactly what the energy of financial and material changes speaks to, not a punishment, but a purification. Not subtraction, but sacred subtraction. In the same way that a garden must be pruned to make space for new blossoms, your life is being edited by the wisdom of something far bigger than your conscious mind. And while it can feel disorienting to watch familiar income streams dry up or opportunities go quiet, these pauses are purposeful. They are recalibrations, designed to lead you towards stability rooted not in fear or survival, but in joy, truth, and alignment. So if you've been feeling disconnected from your career, uninspired by your routines, or unsure about how you've been making money, pause, but don't panic. This isn't the destruction of your value, it's the invitation to redefine it. Your worth was never measured by your productivity, title, or income. Your worth is in the radiance you bring into every space you enter, and the healing your energy naturally carries when you are living from a place of integrity with your purpose. From a self-help therapy lens, this period echoes what we often call identity unraveling, when your old roles no longer fit, and your soul begins reaching for deeper meaning. It's common during these times to experience fatigue, doubt, even grief. Grief not because you're failing, but because your inner compass is pointing you somewhere unfamiliar, and part of you is still mourning the comfort of what once was. But here's the beauty. The discomfort is not the enemy, it's the evidence that expansion is happening. You are being gently removed from spaces that cannot support the magnitude of who you are becoming. The promotions that didn't come? The business that slowed down? The dream job that didn't fulfill you after all? They were never the prize, they were the lesson. And now, you are ready to build again, but this time, on sacred ground. What is emerging now is not just a new financial path, it's a higher value system altogether. One where your energy is the currency, and your alignment is the investment. One where the universe doesn't pay you based on hours, but on intention. One where your gifts are no longer confined to corporate cubicles or productivity quotas, but are free to be shared in the way your soul most deeply desires. If you're reading this and it resonates, take a moment to reflect in the comments. What in your material world is shaking and what might be waiting to rise in its place? You're not alone in this. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. And as uncomfortable as it may feel, you are being shown where your true wealth lies, in your courage to let go, in your trust to begin again, and in your willingness to believe that what's coming next is more supportive, more sustainable, and far more soul-fulfilling than what you're leaving behind. Leo, you've already begun to sense it, haven't you? That subtle but undeniable shift, the inner pull towards something deeper, something truer. After the release of outdated values and the unraveling of false stability, you're now standing in the sacred stillness that comes just before renewal. This isn't just a chapter of change, it's a reintroduction to who you really are beneath the masks, the roles, and the survival systems. Your spirit is whispering, not only that you are awakening, but that your very frequency is recalibrating. And in that recalibration, everything that no longer aligns is naturally beginning to fall away. When the energy of hope, spiritual strength, and new beginnings surround your field this intensely, it's not by coincidence, it's by divine design. You are being reminded that transformation is not always loud. Sometimes it moves like a quiet river underneath your skin, slowly dissolving illusions you didn't even realize you were still carrying. And as this current moves through you, it's illuminating the parts of your life that drain you, the people, the habits, the environments that once matched your vibration but now leave you empty, disconnected, or even invisible. This is your soul's way of telling you that you've outgrown your old orbit. At the heart of this transition is your third eye activation, that's subtle but powerful stirring in your intuitive center. It's not about seeing with your physical eyes anymore, but about learning to trust the vision within. This is the inner compass that guides you when logic is blindfolded. It's that quiet knowing, the clarity that doesn't ask for proof, and the deep peace that comes when your choices begin to align with your higher self rather than your wounded self. As your third eye opens wider, you begin to see through the surface of things, not to judge, but to discern. You start recognizing when conversations are energy draining rather than life-giving. You start noticing when you are dimming your light just to keep peace. And slowly, you stop compromising your frequency to maintain proximity to people who were never meant to walk with you through your next season. But let me remind you, this process isn't about abandonment. It's about alignment. Emotional healing, in its truest form, is never about cutting people off with coldness. It's about releasing with compassion. About acknowledging that not every soul is meant to stay, and not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people enter your life as mirrors, some as teachers, and some simply as passengers in the same carriage for just one part of the ride. And as your light becomes clearer and stronger, only those vibrating at a frequency of authenticity, reverence, and soul resonance will be able to stay. That's not loneliness. That's resonance. And that's sacred. This season, you are being asked to rebuild not from the outside in, but from the inside out. To root your next decisions not in guilt or expectation, but in what brings your nervous system peace. In what gives your heart oxygen. In what allows your mind to rest, and your spirit to expand. You are being called into sacred self-trust to no longer need external validation for what your internal compass already knows. So if relationships feel hollow, if conversations feel heavy, if old dreams suddenly feel foreign, know that it's not you becoming colder. It's you becoming clearer. And clarity always clears the path. You are being reintroduced to yourself, not the version shaped by survival, but the one shaped by light, by love, and by liberated frequency. If this part of the message speaks to you, share in the comments below what you're seeing more clearly lately. What have you outgrown and what are you finally ready to walk toward? When you write it, you ground it. And when you ground it, you claim it. And Leo, you are ready to claim what's truly yours. Sometimes, Leo, we wait for changes to announce themselves with clarity. We imagine transitions to arrive like sunrises, gradual, golden, and comforting. But what you're experiencing now is something stranger. The familiar is starting to feel foreign. The passions that once pulled you forward now feel like echoes from another version of you. You find yourself in a room you built, yet somehow it no longer feels like home. And while this may feel unsettling, even lonely at times, it is not a mistake. You're not broken or lost. You are rising and your frequency is changing. What's happening in your life right now may not make sense to the mind, but it makes perfect sense to the soul. You are not imagining the detachment, the fog, the sudden urge to let go. These are symptoms of elevation. They are the effects of a vibrational upgrade, the kind that doesn't just shift how you feel, but what you allow, attract, and align with. As your frequency evolves, your outer world must rearrange to match it. This is not emotional inconsistency, this is energetic intelligence. One of the quiet truths we rarely talk about is how healing often disguises itself as disconnection. Not because you've lost something, but because you've outgrown it. You've outgrown the job that once made you feel proud, the relationship that once felt safe, the dream that once felt like everything. And when that happens, the universe begins to withdraw your emotional investment in those spaces not as punishment, but as preparation. The strange timing of people resurfacing from your past, the fatigue around conversations you used to enjoy, the closing of doors you never expected to shut, all of it is part of a larger pattern. Think of it like an internal compass recalibrating. The things, people, and environments that no longer serve your growth begin to lose their grip on you. And it's not your job to hold on harder. It's your job to listen. You may feel the urge to move physically, emotionally, or spiritually, but without knowing exactly where. That's not confusion, it's guidance without a map. And that kind of guidance requires a new level of trust, not in the outcome, but in your ability to respond moment by moment. Because when the soul says, go, it doesn't always explain why. But it never leads you astray. What you're going through now is not random. These strange changes are not isolated events. They are signposts. Invitations. Synchronistic threads weaving a new chapter of your life, one that can't be written with the same pen you used before. This part of your journey isn't about doing more. It's about unlearning. About softening into the unknown. About letting go of stories that once made you feel secure, but now only make you feel small. When your inner world evolves, your outer world must catch up. That's why the things that no longer match your vibration begin to fade. The universe doesn't always remove what's wrong, it removes what's done. And sometimes, that includes things you loved, things you fought for, or things you thought you couldn't live without. But your soul always knows what's next, and it's trying to get your attention through the things that no longer feel like home. You are not being punished for shifting. You are being prepared to receive differently. To align with people who speak your language. To walk through doors that don't require you to shrink. To step into spaces where your presence doesn't just fit, it belongs. So if life feels strange, empty, or unfamiliar right now, breathe. That's not darkness, it's space. And space is what allows the light to move in. If you've felt this in your own life, I invite you to share it in the comments below. What's falling away? What no longer excites you? The act of naming it may be the first step in releasing it. You are not alone in this. The strangeness is not random. It is coded with purpose. And you are walking straight into it with more grace than you realize. Leo, this moment you're walking through, this shift, this unraveling, this strange, unspoken invitation into something new, it is not an accident. It is not a detour. It is a divine calling, written into the very architecture of your soul's journey. You weren't chosen for this change because you are flawless or unshakable. You were chosen because your heart has endured enough to recognize the truth when it whispers, and brave enough to follow it even when the path is unclear. This isn't just your season of transformation. It's your anointing into a new way of being. The universe doesn't randomly select messengers, it responds to those who carry the courage to live authentically in a world that prefers masks. And you, Leo, are now stepping into that archetype. You are being asked to become something most never dare to be, whole while still healing, radiant while still remembering, powerful while still human. This shift you're experiencing isn't here to overwhelm you. It's here to redefine your influence, not through force or noise, but through alignment. Through quiet integrity. Through waking up each day with the decision to live by truth, not performance. That's the frequency of leadership that is emerging in you now. And whether or not the world around you applauds it yet doesn't matter, because the universe sees you. Life is reorganizing itself around you. And that is more permanent than any applause. You are not meant to bend to expectations that drain you. You are not meant to shrink for comfort. The version of you that the world truly needs is not the one who's always agreeable, always composed, always hustling. It's the one who is alive, present, discerning, grounded in your yes and anchored in your no. You are here to reorient the energy around you, not by forcing it, but by embodying what alignment looks and feels like. You are here to remind people what it means to live from the inside out. And no, it won't always be graceful. Some days, rebuilding yourself will feel like carrying stones through a storm. But if you pace yourself, if you return to your breath and rebuild one brick at a time, you will not collapse. You will rise slowly, deliberately, sustainably. Not as the person you were before, but as someone deeper, more rooted, more honest. Someone who finally stops abandoning themselves for approval and begins choosing themselves as an act of devotion. Even in the quiet hours, when doubt creeps in and everything still feels unclear, you're not regressing, you're integrating. Your nervous system is learning how to feel safe in this new frequency. So please be patient with yourself. This level of awakening isn't just a change, it's a resurrection. And you cannot rush resurrection. You have to let it unfold. Let the weirdness happen. Let the questions remain unanswered for now. Let yourself feel both fear and excitement at once. That's what growth feels like. This shift isn't supposed to look clean or make perfect sense. In fact, the biggest miracles often come wrapped in the unfamiliar. Because it's in those moments, the ones that defy logic and expectation, that you come home to your truest self. You are the light in the fog. The compass when no one else sees a map. The quiet leader whose life is a permission slip for others to live truthfully. And if you don't feel ready yet, that's okay. You're not called to be perfect. You're called to be willing. So take your time. Sleep deeply. Dream boldly. And live fully in this moment. Because every single thing unfolding around you is part of a greater orchestration, one designed not to break you, but to build you into the version of yourself the world has been waiting for. And if this touched something inside of you, I invite you to share it in the comments. What are you ready to live for again, even if it's messy, even if it's new? Your truth might be the light someone else is praying to see. So say it. Anchor it. And keep walking. You're not behind. You're just becoming. If everything around you feels like it's falling apart, Leo, perhaps, just perhaps, it's not falling apart at all. Perhaps it's falling into place, a divine rearrangement designed not to punish you, but to protect you from patterns you've outgrown and places that no longer hold your future. These strange changes? They're not detours. They are destiny recalibrated. This moment in your journey isn't simply about change. It's about rebirth. The unfamiliar discomfort you're walking through is not a signal of danger, it's the contraction before expansion, the silence before the breakthrough, the final breath before a brand new version of you steps forward. And yes, it's tender. Yes, it may feel lonely. But nothing about your transformation is accidental. Every closed door, every sudden ending, every unexpected shift, it's all part of the sacred architecture being built beneath your feet. You were never meant to settle for a life that only partially lit you up. You were meant to burn with purpose. So if it feels like you're being stripped of all that once made sense, it's only because a truer version of your life is about to emerge, one that honors the full spectrum of who you are. Let this be your invitation to trust what doesn't make sense yet. To lean into the strange. To say yes to the quiet whisper inside of you that says, "There's more for me, even if I can't see it yet." Because there is. And it's closer than you think. As we close this sacred moment together, I want to ask you what strange changes have been unfolding in your life lately. What doors are closing, and what inner truths are beginning to surface? Drop your reflections in the comments below. Writing it out not only grounds your truth but may inspire someone else who is silently walking the same path. And if today's message stirred something in your soul, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it. This helps the message reach more people and keeps our soul-aligned community at Eternal Mindfulness growing with clarity and intention. Your presence here means more than you know. Every moment you spend listening, every word you reflect on, is a seed planted in your future. And here's what I want you to remember: you have more power than you think, more wisdom than you realize, and more love available to you than you've allowed yourself to receive. This shift isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And when you embrace it, even gently, you become a magnet for the very life you've been quietly praying for. So take a breath. Recenter. And keep walking toward your own becoming. The universe isn't done with you, it's just getting started.